This is Budget and Bling, the series where we upgrade the precons for a little and a lot. In this episode, we're looking at Kaust, Eyes of the Glade from the Deadly Disguise precon from Murders at Karlov Manor. I've got some upgrades under $10, I've got some upgrades over $10, and at the end, I'll show you what I would cut from the deck to make room.
Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat.
Big shout out to our sponsors on the channel that allow Jake and I to do this full time. Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards on the internet. TCG Player, the best place to buy them. Dragon Shield, the best way to protect them. And Moxfield, the best way to list them on the internet. Kaust, Eyes of the Glade is a 1 green and either red or a white for a 2/2 Dryad Detective. It says whenever a creature you control that was turned face up this turn deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, and you can tap Kaust to turn target face down attacking creature you control face up. We've got a morph deck, or a disguise deck, or a cloak deck, whatever you want to call it. We're going to play with that mechanic. Cards that go face down, and then cards that go face up. That's what we want to stuff in this deck, because if we can get some cool attacking threats moving in the direction of our opponent, Kaust can turn them face up, and we can get some benefit. Looking at the budget upgrades, I've got to go into the set first. This is a commander that was printed to play well with a major set mechanic, and so when you're upgrading a precon like this, go into the set and look for some synergistic cards because they will exist. This uncommon, Expose the Culprit, 1 red, 1 other, instant speed. Choose one or both. Turn target face down creature face up. That's fantastic for us because most of our stuff is going to enter the battlefield face down so that we can get some surprise value, or exile any number of face-up creatures you control with Disguise in a face-down pile, shuffle that pile, and then cloak them. So you can take a bunch of creatures that have Disguise that have already been turned face-up, turn them back face-down, and possibly get some protection on them too with that ward happening. Always look into the set for synergistic cards, but also look outside the set. Morph. That's what we want to do with this deck. There are some morph cards. There are some disguise cards that were not included in the deck list itself, and we should run the good ones anyway. Jeering Instigator is one of those. 1 red, 1 other, 2/1 Goblin Rogue. Morph for a red and 2 other, so you turn it face down for 3, and then you can turn it face up for a red and 2 other. When it's turned face up, if it's your turn, gain control of another target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains haste until end of turn. Active Treason on a morph ability, especially in a deck where we want to be attacking with creatures as much as possible. Yeah, Jeering Instigator has a place in this deck. From the set, we've got Pyrotechnic Performer, a red and 1 for a 3/2 Viashino Assassin. Disguise is 1 red here, so you turn it face down for 3, and you only have to pay 1 red to turn it face up whenever it or another creature you control is turned face up, so you want this one to be face up before your others. That creature deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. This card is so good. This is basically a lightning bolt on a creature that also has 3 power, essentially. This Disguise and Morph, this is a strange mechanic to build around, I'm not gonna lie. But because the mechanic has only popped up a few times, we can go through the cards that are available and pick the best ones. Unyielding Gatekeeper is an Elephant Cleric from the set. 1 white, 1 other, 3/2. It's got Disguise of 2 or Morph of 2. It's the same thing essentially, except it's a little different. It's got Disguise for 1 white and 1 other, so you can turn it face up from its face down for 3. When it's turned face up, you exile another target non-land permanent, and if you controlled it, you return it to the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, its controller gets a 2/2. We can exile one of their permanents straight up, and they just get a 2/2. That's it. That's all that happens here. There's no clause on here of like, that returns when the elephant leaves. Nope. It's just gone. Or we can save one of our things from targeted removal. I really like Unyielding Gatekeeper in this deck. Hide in Plain Sight is a 1 green, 3 other sorcery. Says look at the top 5 cards of your library, cloak 2 of them, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Just getting these creatures face down, that's fantastic. And we don't have to pay anything. That's awesome. We can get our synergy ready to rock on the board and save ourselves a little money, get a little card advantage with Hide in Plain Sight. For the Bling upgrades, we're looking back into the set for Aurelia's Vindicator, 2 white, 2 other, 4/2, Flying Lifelink, Ward of 2, Disguise for a white 3 and X. When it's turned face up, you exile up to X other target creatures from the battlefield and or creature cards from graveyards, and when Aurelia's Vindicator leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hands. This is a temporary little hideaway that also happens to have 4 power and lifelink and a ward 2. That's awesome. I love this mythic, especially when we're going to have a lot of different stuff all disguised face down on the battlefield, ready to morph or disguise or whatever you want to call it, ready to turn face up. So we're going to give them some hard choices if we've got some commons like the deck has and some mythics that are face down. I love that. And look, we're playing a lot of 2/2s onto the battlefield, okay? Easily killed. Please run Heroic Intervention in this deck. There's not a lot of creature protection in this deck. There's some, not a ton. Heroic Intervention would fit perfectly in this. And then look, this is a morph deck. I don't want to cut any of the really good morph cards or disguise cards. Whatever you want to call the mechanic, I don't want to cut them. I also don't want to suggest just bad ones for the sake of having them in there. So with this one, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to upgrade the mana base here. This is a potentially 3-color deck. We're running cards of all 3 colors anyway, and we want access to our mana. Jetmir's Garden, Mountain Forest Plains. You've got cards in here that search for forests straight up. Go get Jetmir's Garden, put it right onto the battlefield. Go get Stomping Ground. All of these are right at that $10 level right now. Just enough to be a Bling upgrade, but not that far into the Bling category. Stomping Ground, any of your cards that are searching for forests, use that to go get this if you already have your Triome. You can also get Temple Garden. If you need your green and a white, go get this one. Run those 3 in here. Fantastic upgrades, because you're going to give yourself fantastic targets with your ramp sorceries that already come in this Precon. Ransom note, I've been cutting this out of all the Precons. It just doesn't do enough. I don't really love it. One-time cloak, maybe. It's just not for me. It's an easy cut to get something more synergistic. Sakura Tribe Elder, I know what we're doing here. It's a creature-based deck. This is creature-based ramp. But we wanted to make room for some other more for disguise cards so that we can get some face-down, face-up stuff going. Sakura Tribe doesn't offer us that. Look, Sereth the Viper's Fang is fantastic. This was a cut just because you're also running Orin the Frost Fang in this, and they do similar things, except Orin also represents some card value, little card advantage, drawing some cards. Sereth, though, there's a ton of argument to leave this in here because you need protection for your little 2/2s until they flip over and do their actual thing. But I wanted to make some room, like I said, for some more synergistic pieces, so we pulled it out. Tessac, I don't think belongs in this deck at all. I think that this was an inclusion to get this card printed. I don't really think it has a ton of synergy with this. Take this card out, put it into the cat and dog secret lair deck that you got, and be way happier with how it performs there. Ugin's Mastery, I think some people are going to yell at me for taking this out, but this just feels slow. When we're doing our thing, we do get to manifest some more cards, but attacking with these creatures and getting to flip something, we want to be able to flip those at the time of our choosing, not necessarily right at the attack. I just feel like this card will play really slow in here, and so I would chop it for just another creature to keep doing our thing. Neheb the Eternal, this one has no inherent synergy other than being a pretty solid creature that if they do block it and you're able to manifest it and they block it, then you'll get some cool like surprise value. But other than that, I just don't understand it. Seedborn Muse, again, generically good. There's not a ton of argument to not run this, but there's not a ton of argument, in my opinion, to run this. And so I would cut it just for more synergistic pieces. Exalted Angel is where I would start drawing the line at. This doesn't really do what we want. It's just a lifelinking 4/5. It flips over for 4. We've invested 7 mana in this thing. Maybe it'll be like a red herring so that they can remove something and we're like, oh my god, thank god they only removed my Exalted Angel. I just don't want to run cards like that in this deck, so I'd chop it. Scourge of the Throne, same argument as Neheb the Eternal. Pretty sweet if it flips over, but it's just not inherently synergistic with our deck. But Imperial Hellkite is, however, we just cut Scourge of the Throne, so when it's turned face up, searching our library for a dragon card that's no longer in the deck is not where we want to be. Those are my upgrades and cuts for Kaust. Let me know how I did down in the comments below. If you think you got any value from this, hit that subscribe button and check out our other Precon upgrades. We got them all over the channel.